I don't think I set out to be a powerful woman or actually get any awards, but I just think it happens to be a recognition of achieving a place in the sun as a woman in many professions which are otherwise traditionally dominated by the men.
Be the best you are as a woman.
The biggest challenge in my life was to be accepted as a professional for my work.
Every woman, I believe, can have an equal opportunity life.
So much talent in India, which is within our Indian women, that I know that it's waiting to be unleashed. Success is, I think, if you want to put it as closely as I would, is a recognition of quality, is an establishment of a reputation, and is the acknowledgement from my peer group and the outside world that this is an institution that stands for something which is strong and good and has a value structure about it.
I think women in our country, and I can only speak for our country, over the last 2 decades have gone through an amazing phase of denying who they are to being extremely proud of who they are. And the first part of that is recognizing and accepting the fact that you're a woman.
The exposure levels which we went through versus others in that generation, my mother and people, were very different. The value system was probably the same, but the upbringing style, the exposure levels, the accessibility to the world at large. Today, world is one.
I am one of the youngest CEOs heading an international brand in India. It feels good. I mean, now I'm sure with time going on, they're going to be younger and younger women coming in, I hope.
My mother's generation was the first generation post-independent India. The social fabric did not encourage women to go out there and work. We were perhaps the first generation of women CEOs who have made a mark for themselves. And we've opened up the society to make attitudinal changes. 50 years ago, people would have condemned a woman who even strived for her own identity. I was married at 17 and a half, and like most women in our kind of family situation, I also thought I would just, be a perfect hostess for my husband, travel with him, have 4 children, and have a very charmed life. Little did I know that I would turn out to be this corporate person. The sugar business I started, we really put it together, my father and I. And of course, Dad passed away even before the factory started production. It was the challenge of putting together a new project, bringing in the various elements, the human element, the financials, the whole building a team to run the business. All of it for me was a first-time experience and extremely challenging. I learned so many lessons. I don't think B schools teach you this. Okay. Uh-huh.
My father is a lawyer, and I was the eldest child, and I'm the only daughter amongst four siblings. I have 3 brothers. My mother went around telling my brothers about 20 times a month how men and women were equal, and never let them forget it. So to that extent, I grew up in an environment where I was entirely comfortable and had no itching under my skin of wanting to be superior to anybody. I just knew as a given that I was brought up in an environment where being a woman was not a disadvantage and being a woman was not an advantage. You simply had to do what you had to do as a person and excel. Remember this school bell? I used to always be late by 2 minutes and used to be caught almost every time.
I think that Zia was different. She was like a star. She always excelled. She stretched limits beyond what we thought was possible. And there was really not much competition from the rest of us. She was way ahead. She was an inspiration to us. I think that she's achieved what she has because she's a woman who has proved herself, who doesn't need to prove herself really, but has stood on her own ground and made her own world.
I never planned getting into business, and it just came in. It just flew into it. It was a natural course of action. I never planned it, just liked it, thought it was exciting. Because it was exciting, liked it even more. And so far, it's going on well. Challenge for me to run a family situation, working scenario, but it's a very professional setup. And the way I started my career was totally not entering from the top. I worked through the ranks, and the biggest challenge in my life was when I moved into the organization and I came back from my training from the US and UK after a year, was to fit into the organization not as a chairman's daughter and be accepted as a professional for my work versus the family, you know, or being a part of the family, at least when I was at work.
See, actually, I started when I was 17 and a half, straight out of school. I'm also very lucky I had a lot of support. And especially in retail, there are no women. You know, there are no women in retail. So I've been very, very lucky that I've been able to earn and, let's say, command a certain kind of respect from all the men I've worked with. I somehow, as time went on, realized that there was a lot more which I could do. And it just happened. I was in London and I had gone for the opening of one of the stores. I think it was the Hermes store over there on Bond Street. And I met the managing director of DAX over there. And he was talking about India and, you know, nothing's happening and things like that. And that's how the whole thing started.
Because my father fell ill when I was 8 years old, a very early independence sort of set in. So the earliest influences have always been the women who have kicked in, you know. And there I have my mother telling me, the day you have earned your first salary for me, you will be a settled woman, you know. So the journey was very, very, very fast after my father died. I'm in a smaller town. I'm not in a mainstream town for the business I went into, which was advertising. So the learning curve was very steep. I put my head down, and when I lifted my head, it was a year and a half, and we had become the #1 network. And when I joined the company, we were number 56. I went into Star with a clear intention of achieving the impossible. I found myself in the thick of a company that was seriously male-oriented. For the first time, I felt it. The news business and a large network like Star and all that is very, very male-focused.
Because she became CEO of a channel. It was a news channel, it wasn't an entertainment channel. It was the precursor of most news channels or the formats that they go to have today, because you can't only have news. So she realized that much earlier than everybody else.
The whole country expected, you know, one of these self-promoting male types to head a news network and not a woman. I mean, which woman runs a news network, right? And everybody's reaction was, she's going to fail, she's not going to make this happen, how can she do it, she's not a journalist, I'm so great, who is she? All this happened, I had a massive reaction. So overnight I had enemies, you know, and that's far greater than whether you're a man or a woman. And you had enemies, A, because in that sense you were an unlikely candidate, B, because I never asked for the job, C, because I was young, and probably D, because I am a woman. All four. I mean, it was a terrible package.
In the earlier years, when I was 15 years younger, I was perceived to be a glamorous, fun-loving, party-loving, a decorative executive who in their perception probably was there for the short term and would give up and run away. I mean, after all, a sugar business, how can this decorative thing actually go down there in the fields, handle the farmers, handle the machines, handle the politicians, and stay in there?
இது என்ன பண்ணுன்னா ஒரு பூச்சி வந்து 400 பூச்சியை ஒரு 21 டேஸ்ல வந்து it will produce. Population of 1,000 worms to be released per hectare.
Okay.
So that will eat up the whole thing.
Okay.
And this can be easily controlled.
I think I said to myself, I'll show you, you know. As attractive women, we will always face sexual issues, whether it's for women who work in a large organization and have sexual innuendos from their colleagues. But earlier in the day, when I started out, I used to be offended and humiliated. Later on, I had the self-confidence to actually handle them. Having said that, I am in a position of authority, and therefore I don't have to look for my next promotion or for a better career opportunity, and therefore I don't have to face the harassment.
When I first came back from America, I was a little wary of how a lawyer in the High Court who was a woman would be accepted. And I felt that I had to be much more serious and not have any signs of frivolity or make sure that everybody thought I was as good as the man. And so one of the things in retrospectively silly that I did was to get myself a pair of glasses without any number, So I looked like this mousy woman and had this pair of glasses which made me look more serious than I thought I otherwise would have looked.
Women should, face the situation properly. It exists. I can't deny the fact that it doesn't exist, but it also exists abroad. It doesn't exist only here. It's not only Indian women only face it. Everybody faces it, and we need to know how do we deal with it, just like any other situation. Today's generation, young generation, the youth, I think encourage the fact that women use their minds constructively in whatever they do, rather than doing what their mothers probably were doing. So the situations change, the paradigm and even men have changed towards women. It's not only the women have moved ahead. I think the whole environment has changed so much.
Next, tell me something I'm going to like, please.
Okay, so let's take you through the through the
Opening
story.
day.
Okay, opening day is the first day of school. There's a huge scrap and Coil walks out. Right.
No, anyway, then that's how you saw it. Okay, then.
Okay, then this whole thing of inspection for the school where maybe
What
the
happened
chief
to the
minister is
fact
going
that
to...
they would have to fight to get the permission to actually have a school band? What happened to all that?
Read this, Ravina.
Being equal is never good enough. I mean, there's not a level playing field at all. All the women who managed to break a glass ceiling, in this country at least, have had to be twice as good as the men.
I don't believe that there is such a thing called a glass ceiling. I'd never heard the term until a journalist, when I was in Sony, asked me, "You feel you've shattered the glass ceiling?" And I said, "What's that?" No, I don't think it's a question of better or worse. I just think if you are good, it really doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I think if you're good, being a man is a disadvantage.
I realize it is certainly more difficult for a woman, but Zia would have has overcome any of that stuff. And I think the best story I can tell you for that is one of the very first times we had a work-related issue was both of us were working in New York at that time, early 80s. And the other side had heard that it's going to be an Indian lady lawyer and, whatever, 5'1", 5'2". So the whole image of a demure lady from India, and in walks Zia, and she's exactly the opposite. And so in 10 minutes, I think the Americans were pretty shaken up.
I think that I always felt that I had to overperform in court being a woman. Simply because in the early days it was just not there, it was not prevalent. We had very, very few women lawyers of substance. Many who just came to attend after college until they got married, etc. But for women professionals at the bar was a very, very tough career because there are no excuses for being a woman. The client doesn't want to lose because he's given his case to a woman. And if he has a sense that the judge will listen more to a man, you're never going to get the matter. So you always had to overcompensate.
I'm still in boardrooms where there are only men. In fact, I've just come back from a conference and we were like a total of 95 people. We'd gone to Kovalam and I was the only woman who made a presentation. And, at certain levels, I think today they've started treating you, it all depends on how you work. I think it boils down to that because nobody is good to you because you're a woman. They're certainly polite to you, at least they try and be. But the minute you start doing well and you can deliver what you're supposed to be doing, they kind of look at you in a different light.
because lot of equipments have to be shifted here and there.
No, wait a minute. Isn't there any way that we can get a little creative and actually raise the level?
Right, but then our basic issue is that if we try to do...
There is a glass ceiling only because women who actually work in a large organization, it's a 9 to 5 job. And it's a lot of demands. Whereas a man can stay and work till 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock and take off every day on a flight to attend a meeting. A woman perhaps has a crying child, a sick mother, an unwell husband. So therefore the glass ceiling exists because in an organization, an employer will perceive that a man can perhaps put in more time and take on more pressure than a woman in the same position.
In my view, if I had had family responsibilities, if I had had children or a husband at the time, something would have given, okay? Because my business is very demanding on time, and that is why it is so male-dominated. So male-dominated because, you know, the women are the invisible force behind all the men who make it big. And a woman doesn't have that invisible force because she doesn't have the support structure in her home.
Hi, Sheru. Sheru, Eddie. Move. Okay, good boy. Chalo. Sheru, come. Chalo. Annual day, I think third is annual. I think I'm reasonably well balanced at home also, whether it's with my husband, whether it's the normal chores of a housewife at home, from ordering the khana to doing the hisab. I mean, those things still happen. You know, I mean, I still do that. So it's not that just because you're a CEO, you don't do all those things. All that is normal. I think it's how you take life, because, I mean, you do have only 24 hours in a day. And you can crib and say, okay, fine, I only work and I don't get time. You need to take out time. And I feel quality time is more important than quantity-wise.
But Reetika that way manages her time pretty well, plans it out pretty well. And in fact, I think that's a great credit to her, because she takes out more time for the house and for Karan, who's a son, more than what I take out. And it's not 5% or 10% more, it's much more. So I think her time management skills are brilliant.
So when I got married, my mother-in-law was delighted to have a lock in the family. And I think really the magic with God's grace is if you have the full support of the family. Otherwise, a woman just can't multitask sufficiently. You can multitask efficiently provided nobody's killing you every day when you go back home. My husband is only proud of me, wanted to see me go from strength to strength. Of course, it has its downsides. You don't have enough time for family. You don't have enough time for the gentler things of life. Everything is working. But that's a call that I took then. I mean, in retrospect, who knows if I'd have another life to lead. But I think that's one of my biggest failures. I've not been able to balance home and work. I have an imbalanced life, which is much more veered towards work. I think it's very hard if you have that ambition and passion in you and something gives. And unfortunately, in my case, it's been my home. So I have a wonderful family, but you know, I don't think I would have liked to have been them.
And the journey has been amazing because I've never been afraid to come crashing down if I had to. And it has only given me the opportunity to sort of go closer to everything I've always wanted to do, you know. I've always stopped to take a few risks here and take a few risks there, and now I'm about to take the biggest risk of my life by doing this. Because when you're on your own, it's a different ball game. But I think the time has come to do it after 20 years of doing it for others.
I think I've always been a very good learner, and I still believe that I've just started and nothing significant has happened so far. And it's just the very, very small beginning. And I hope that I'm able to live up to the spirit of learning throughout my life.
Retail in India has just started. We have 25 years of retail boom happening. And I have 25 years more that I would like to work for. But I think career-wise, work-wise, I still have a lot more to achieve. And I'm very confident it's going to happen. In time, not a very long time, but shortly, it'll all happen.
The balance sheet doesn't recognize if you're a man or a woman CEO, believe me. Neither do the banks give you subsidized rates of interest for your borrowings if you're a man or a woman. Therefore, it's all about performance. It's all about performance. You perform, you perform to survive, you perform equally, and you perform if you want to stay in that position.